the Wildfire Tribe podcast. My name is Sean.
And my name is Kylie, and we are talking about
Being smashed. Smashed.
Yes, we're talking about Smash this week, and this is going to be a lovely melting pot of delicious wine, love, bliss, which will be a wonderful occasion.
Ah, yes, a wonderful occasion. It is to be smashed. So a few weeks ago, we attended a retreat in Victoria, Australia, didn't we? We live in New South Wales, Australia, so it's a fair way to get there. It's about 1,500 kilometres, so we chose to fly instead of walking. And we went to the retreat, and the retreat, its name was Smashed. And on returning from that retreat, I was actually sick, and I caught what I thought was hay fever or cold or something like that. But at the beginning, I thought that it was just for me. It was just a Sean thing. And then it progressed to actually spreading right throughout our family, everybody in the house. So we've all been smashed since smashed.
We have been smashed in all the good ways and in all the bad ways too. So it's been pretty funny.
So you still sound like you're a bit snotted up inside. You sound like you've still got a bit of it going on there. There's been a lot of coughing in our house. Even today, as I've been getting around the house, I've been hearing coughs coming from different rooms. But I guess what we have to do is we just have to soldier on.
The show must go on.
Like you do with life in general. You just motor on, don't you? It's like these events, these sicknesses, the incidents, the things that are outside of your control that happen in life. How much do you want to allow those to control what's happening in your life? So we've been sick, but we're continuing to press on with our podcast, and it's being recorded so it can be played on Spotify and also many other places now, including allowing you the ability to see it on YouTube.
Yes, which is great because then you can see our lovely pastiness as well.
Our pasty faces.
So why smashed? Like I was thinking about this, when we were putting these topics together, and we knew we were going to be part of this amazing gathering with this beautiful Smash retreat with a bunch of whole really crazy cool people in Melbourne. And also there's these questions that people have around the drunkenness, drunk in the spirit, the wine. What is the wine that people are having? Is this wine a natural wine? Do we actually get drunk on the natural wine of communion? Or are we actually getting drunk on this love wine, this intoxicating place where we find ourselves inebriated on the love of Jesus? And how does this work? Like, how do we get there? How do we find that place of bliss, that place of connection? And I write a whole chapter about this in my book. Sean's like dancing with the Smash Retreat wine book, which is gorgeous, this beautiful picture on the front.
People will know that if they're watching us on YouTube, Kylie, and people that are just listening. It's great that you explained that to them, that yes, we are visually available now as well. And the Smash Retreat book that I was waving around in your face to annoy you did its trick. It seemed like it did annoy you, and it threw you off the path of your thinking, which is what I was hoping that it would do. Why would you call a retreat smashed? And when you're talking about the drunken glory bliss of Jesus and that type of language that you use, it's okay to use that when you're around people that speak like that, the likes of Justin Paul Abraham from Company of Burning Hearts in Wales and people like that. They've almost created a language around it, and the likes of John Crowder. These guys have been cruising around the world getting drunk on Jesus' bliss for 20 years or more. And there's lots of people that understand what it is that you're talking about, and there's people that have absolutely no idea. When you attend an Anglican church in outback New South Wales, Australia, there ain't no drunken glory bliss happening in there. I can tell you that from experience. So what is it that you're actually talking about?
Well, this has been around for centuries and centuries and centuries. In fact, it's been around since Jesus turned water into wine. That first moment of the marital bliss, that significant miracle that was performed where there was this intimacy that was framed up there with this love wine created out of water to it be feasted upon in this gathering together. And I think it's just this place of it's creating a picture of what it is to be intoxicated at the gathering, the feasting together in the presence of the one who created a way for us to have undiluted, unstoppable, like untapped love that we can dive into at any time.
And sometimes that looks like a person is intoxicated like they are when they drink beer or wine.
And it's true. And I think that the feeling of it, because I've been very intoxicated on normal beer and wine and spirits, and I've also been very intoxicated in the spirit. And it feels very similar in the way that you have this not caring. You know how they call beer and wine liquid courage, because it helps people like to drink it. Young people like to drink because it helps them to talk to people, or it helps them to just have the courage to do the things that they normally wouldn't do, like in the safeness of just their own personality. But that when you drink alcohol, that then all of a sudden your walls come down. You get this courage that you didn't have. You adapt to playfulness. For some people, that you start being really silly and funny, and being intoxicated in the spirit is very like that. It's very like that place that you come into where you just want to just play, you want to laugh, you want to just see the silly and the funny side of things, which is what happened at the Smash Retreat.
And it can happen in your own house on your own. Can you be
Absolutely.
a closet drinker?
Definitely.
So you can be sitting at home on your lounge having a quiet little chuckle, completely in peace with
Yes.
the world, and completely knowing that it comes out of that relationship with your creator.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, like I was saying, the Dominican monk, Miser Eckhart, he says, and this is, I quote him in my book, the Father laughs at the Son, and the Son at the Father, and the laughing brings forth pleasure, and the pleasure brings forth joy, and the joy brings forth love.
I think for me, some of the times that I've felt drunk or a little bit tipsy or a little bit chuckly, in the presence of God, in the presence of the knowing of Him, because it's not like we're ever outside of His presence anyway. But I think there's been the odd occasion where I've had a little quiet chuckle to myself in the corner like a drunken monk, just at the ridiculousness of some of our beliefs. Sometimes I find myself just like overwhelmed in thinking that there is anything outside of just the love of God that makes Christianity what it is. Because I see and I read things everywhere I look, everywhere on the internet particularly that I look. There is Christians attacking each other. There's our good old mate, our freshly baptised friend from the other side of the world, Russell Brand, who's now what I guess most Christians are applauding as being a brother in Christ, because now he's a Christian and he has told the world that he is, and he got baptised, and his good friend Bear Grylls was there on the day to assist in all of that. And immediately, absolutely straight away, he is just getting pounded by God-fearing Christian brothers and sisters who are out to tell him all of the things that he now can and cannot do to maintain his Christianship. And I find myself sometimes drunk in the chuckly monk type scenario of just, it's all too much for me. It's all too much for me to process that as as believers in Jesus, therefore qualifying us to call ourselves Christians, that we are so ridiculous that we would immediately pounce on people and make it all about religion again instead of the unconditional love of God.
And I think that's why we need to let go, because there is a whole bunch of people that would call themselves Christians that are still really hung up on just pointing the finger at people and trying to point out what everybody's not doing right.
It's great to be saved and all, Kylie, but now you've got things to do, and you can't swear, you can't watch certain TV programs, there's certain music you can't listen to, there's places that you can't go after certain times of the day or night, you can't have tarot cards in your house, there's some board games that you probably shouldn't play, there's lots of conversations that you shouldn't be involved in, there's churches that you need to go to on certain days of the week depending on which one you're told to go to make sure that they survive, because they're all trying to do their thing in the world to make the world a better place. There's lots of stuff that has to be done now that you're a Christian. You cannot just be drunk in the corner.
Well, come on. Like, his goodness did not give us access to any of that. Like, his goodness gave us access to the tree of life. He gave us access through drinking the new wine of his presence. Like, his goodness, his love, this wine of intimacy, it intoxicates us, it entrances us. Like, it is this place that eventually completely possesses us until we are fully consumed agents of fire. Doesn't sound like fiery agents of love to me, intoxicated on the love wine of his presence, because we're so drunk on his goodness and his glory and his love that we just don't see all of those little things that don't matter. Because when we're always focused on everything else and trying to change everybody else, then the frequency of humanity is not going to rise. It's not going to get to that place until we let go and we just be responsible for our own plugging into the vats within.
Now, there's a man called D-U-B-B, Alexander in the US. I follow a lot of his stuff online, and he posted something today which says, religion will shame you because you don't think about God enough. The kingdom invites you to think like God perpetually.
And not just like God, but on God, in God, with God, through God. Like in all of those oneness words, all those words that bring us into that place that we are never outside of that place of being in.
So Christianity has fallen back yet again into that place of living from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and making it all about behaviour.
Exactly. And that's the thing that Jesus came to rescue us from. Like, he came to set us free from this,
Surely he
the
came
law,
to set us free from something.
the law of sin and death. Like, and he came to set us free into eternal life. So unless we start living in what already is, then we're living in some past tense that has actually passed away in his death. And then life rose. Life rose in life, and freedom and abundance and fullness rose out of the grave. And we keep on going back there and digging up all this old stuff and then throwing it at each other. For what reason other than to make each other feel so bad? I just don't even understand why we do that.
Maybe that's why us Christians always talk about having Jesus return again, because we need him to come back and do what he did before so that we can forget immediately what he did again, so that we can start being mean to each other again.
But just open your heart. He's already here. Like, he's already here. Where everybody's waiting for him to return so he's already here. He's already here.
I do find it interesting I guess there's lots of places you can go with that conversation regarding, is Jesus returning? Is it any time soon? Is it sometime in the distance? Has he already returned? There's so many places that you can go with that. But I do find it interesting, just if you want to dumb it right down to the point of when you become a Christian, in churches they will tell you, invite Jesus into your heart and you can become a Christian. That's the language that they use, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so when you become a Christian and you ask him into your heart, then where does he go after that? Well, if you ask him into your heart and then you become what Christians call saved and you become a Christian, then you're waiting for him to return again from somewhere, then aren't you saying that he left you and you need him to come back?
But doesn't it say he will never leave you?
It's all very confusing, and this is what I'm saying. We could go into multiple directions theologically to try and determine whether Jesus is in our heart or whether he is in heaven, which is distance to us, or whether heaven is in us. We have these conversations all the time. But I think at the crux of it all, what religion tries to do, religion tries to tell you that there is some distance between you and your Saviour. And the distance requires you to do something to get to that Saviour. And usually it's to do with behaviour modification. You need to change your behaviour as you are sitting in your chair right now to be able to get the approval and the acceptance of God, who is somewhere distant to you, even though you've already asked him into your life, if that's the terminology that you use.
But it's already done. Like within us is a garden. Like in the center of our heart is this place where we can meet with Jesus. Like that is this place of Eden, the place of forever within the very center of our being. And he's already there. He's never left there. He's always been there to dance with us, to be with us. That is the place, the cellar room, the cellar room of wine. It is there. And the wine is the undiluted, sacrificial love. Like it's this beautiful place of wildness. It's this place of overflow. It's this place of never ceasing. It's this place of forevermore. It's this place, the door. It's the door. Like he is the door into the more. Like if we want to step into the door that's actually ours, like we only need to let it open up because it's already within us. We have the power to just let it open.
Alrighty, before you go getting all gibberish and drunk here as we're talking and you get to the point where you can't even talk anymore, I just want to keep it lucid and rigid and strict for a little while in a religious spirit kind of way, because I've still got some stuff to read to you. Truth Seeker. Truth Seeker is a fellow that spends a lot of time online, on Facebook, but on YouTube and lots of other places like that. He's a US music artist. He's got really long dreadlocks. He's probably, if he walked into your church in Outback, Australia, you'd probably go, oh my goodness, what's wrong with this fella? He's got tattoos and stuff. But he is what I guess he would call a Christian as well. You'd have to ask him. Anyway, you can ask him because you can go online and talk to him. Truth Seeker. Now, in 2022, he wrote a very short article, which I'll read some of it to you, and it says things about the religious spirits. And he says, the religious spirits are fighting tooth and nail right now to hang on to their old paradigm. They are lashing out, being rude and saying very hurtful things to people. It's getting wild. If you've been a victim of this, just remember to hold your peace and respond with love. Even a response is needed, even a response is needed at all. Sometimes the best response is no response. And I have to admit that that's where I find myself quite regularly when I start to get heated about the religious backwards and forwards online, particularly. That's where I spend a lot of my time, but also in person. You sometimes just have to withdraw yourself from it completely because it's just never ending. It's just like, I'm going to throw up this verse on you and then you're going to do likewise. And it's never ending. We can never seem to get to a point where we're just like loving each other.
Exactly. Well, it's crazy because I think at the heart of it all, everyone is just seeking that love. They're seeking that bliss. Like we are remembering the beginning. That's where it all comes down to. That's where the correlation of Eden comes in. It's that blissful place of Eden that we realize we are salt and light. Like we are only able to love to the degree that we are loved by him. And that's the river of wine, that place of love and life that flows from within us. So if our love gate is closed and we're not allowing him to love us, and we're not taught that as Christians. Like we're not taught that within us is all of the love of God, that we just need to allow ourselves to be loved by him because we're so used to beating ourselves up. We're so used to keeping ourselves in line. We're so used to following all the rules. We're so used to beating the flesh. The flesh is so bad. The flesh is so bad. And we equate that to our body is so bad. And all of these emotions I have is so bad. And all of this stuff I'm feeling is so bad. But all of those pieces are created parts of ourselves. And unless we can unlock that door within ourselves and allow His love to first love us, and that's where it all comes from. If the first love is not allowed to permeate all of ourselves, our complete makeup, then we will only spout out what is within. And for many Christians, that is just hatred. That is separation. That's casting the first stone and the second stone and the 50th stone and the 100th stone, because they haven't actually found that place where they've allowed themselves to be loved by Him. Then they've learnt to love themselves. And then we start to be able to have the love from within us to love the world.
Now, for quite a long time, Christianity has won people to its faith with the threat of hell. Truthseeker writes, people are learning that if you win people over to a faith through fear, then you will have to keep them there with that same fear. If you win some with love, then love is the law, and God will keep you in His perfect law. And that's our religious spirit again. Do this, do that, make sure that your behaviour is exactly as it should be, or as close to being what it should be as possible, so that you can still call yourself a Christian, so that when you die you get to go to heaven and not hell, and then things might be right. So if that's how you're believing that the God who created the world looks at you and treats you, He treats you and He's judging you moment by moment about your behaviour and how close you are to being a good Christian or not, then your life is going to look a lot different to somebody that's living in the freedom of His love, His unconditional love, love with no conditions.
Yeah, well, it comes down to that Romans 12 too, doesn't it? Where it talks about being transformed by the renewing of our minds. And I think that's a personal journey that you need to allow yourself to go on with Him, so that we can come to that place where our heart is transformed and our eyes see in the way that He sees us. And that is through those eyes of unconditional love.
Even listening to podcasts such as the podcast that we're actually producing right now, and just after you get off this one, listen to another one, and listen to another one, and read another book written by Tommy Miller from Ohio in the US, or whoever it is that you're actually, putting favour on or towards at the moment in the theological discussions. Sometimes what we actually really need to do is turn it all off, including this podcast, including the voices that you're listening to that are telling you whatever it is that they're telling you, and just sit back in the wonder of Him. Find a nice spot, a nice lounge. If you've got if it's a bit cool outside, it's a bit cool where you are at the moment. Hopefully you can get yourself near a fire, or you can put a blanket on, or if it's the opposite sort of season in your part of the world, you can find somewhere where it's comfortable to actually turn off the world and focus on listening to Him and have this discussion with Him, rather than flicking through your Bible, even looking at Romans 12 verse 2, do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Just put all of those things aside, including the Bible, and spend some time with Him, and just see what it is that He has to tell you, and just see how it feels to spend time with Him, where you're not actually absorbing what the rest of the world is chucking at each other, and form your own opinion with Him as to whether or not it is Him that loves you unconditionally or not.
And this is where the bliss begins, because it's when you're tapping into the river within that you begin to realize it's a relationship. It is undiluted love flowing from the throne rooms of heaven, from the Father's heart. It is this place of connection that we can't find out there. It's actually found within our own garden. It's found within the fullness of who we already are in Him.
But Kylie, the thief comes to steal and to kill and to destroy.
Well, especially if you're focused on Him. If you're watching the thief all the time, all you're going to see is what the thief is doing.
Yes,
But
it's
if you
just an
don't,
example of reading half a Bible verse too, because the rest of the Bible verse speaks about the fact that Jesus came so that you may have life and have it in abundance too.
absolutely.
And it's, I guess, when I brought that up and I did it in that silly voice, my point is that these are the scriptures that Christian people throw at each other. This is what Russell Brand is having thrown at him right now. He's having the first half of Bible verses thrown at him in judgment, when we probably all just need to relax a little bit. And if we actually believe that Jesus came and accomplished something at all in his time on earth here, maybe we just need to kick back and reflect on what we believe that is that he accomplished. Because if there's something that we have to do now to get ourselves to a point where we're prepared perfectly for entry into heaven when we die, then what is it that he did?
Exactly. We love you, Russell. We think you're awesome.
Yeah, it'd be pretty good, Russell, if you just came on our podcast and let us interview you. It might take our followers from 12 up to however many he might have.
12 million.
But anyway, we just like to be encouraging of all people in the creative space, but all people in the entire planet. You know, we just want people to actually know the love of God, aside from any of the rules that the rest of the world tells you have to be lived by. We just want the best for Russell Brand. We want the best for everybody. I particularly have a heart for people that are brand new Christians as well. Like, when I saw that he was going to air talking about the fact that at some stage in the future he was going to be baptized, etc., I was just like, oh no, 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 poor Russell, because you know what's going to happen now. You know who it is that you're going to be attacked by the most now, Russell Brand? You're going to be attacked the most by your brothers and sisters in Christ. They are going to be the people that hate you more than the rest of the world. They are going to be the people that make your life more miserable than you could possibly believe, because Christian people who are religious and have lots of rules to abide by love doing that to each other.
Come on, guys. Let's stop loving doing that to each other and let's just start loving.
Let's be
Like,
people
let's
that actually just live a life of abundance.
absolutely and overflow. And let's be love. Let's be the frequency of love, because everything else just falls away in our presence. We just are love. We're radiating with the light and the salt. Everywhere we go, we're so flavorsome and delicious. People just can't get enough of us because of how beautiful we are, not because they just want to sidestep us or cross to the other side of the road, because the religion that's just seeping out of our cells is so what's that word?
Religion, it's just the image of flames coming out of the side of a fire, isn't it? With tongues and just licking at things, just trying to burn things up and make your life really painful.
Exactly. And it just makes it's so like offensive. Like it's so ugh.
All right, so let's go back to our place of drunken glory, smashed in the goodness of his love, because we've got the religious stuff out of the way. We've done the first part of the Bible verse now. We've done the thief who is stealing and killing and destroying part. That's the first part of our podcast. Now, the rest of our podcast today is about life and life in abundance, and what Russell Brand and you and I and the rest of the entire world can expect to be living in as a person who knows their creator God.
Yes, so welcome Russell to Life and Life in Abundance.
Welcome to Wildfire Tribe podcast, Russell Brand and everybody else that's listening. This is a podcast about life in abundance.
Absolutely, about the smashed, drunken glory bliss that is living tapped into the love wine of Jesus.
So, when we were away in Melbourne, Victoria, Kylie, at this Smash conference, we've done a full loop back to the beginning again. Why don't you tell people what happened to you, in you, with you at that conference? It was, 2 nights, 3 days, something like that? Just tell us what happened with you.
Yeah, well, I think lots of stuff happened with me, and predominantly I really had another really amazing and refreshing and renewing and crazy wild encounter with Jesus. So I think there's so many parts of walking in the heavenly spaces. Like sometimes I feel like I'm walking with the Father, and sometimes I'm walking with the Holy Spirit, and sometimes I'm engaging with the angels. And, sometimes we're talking to King David, or sometimes we're talking to Moses or Enoch or any of these different beings and different creatures and the cloud of witnesses and all that kind of stuff. And I think I just hadn't had a really undiluted, really close hangout with Jesus. And I don't think for a little while, not that I'm just like not that he's not here, like he's always just there. But I just tapped into this space with him where I was like, oh my goodness, like he is the loved one. Like he is the one that is the wine, that when we're drinking him, when we're smoking him, when we're toking him, when we're coming into that place of overflow and delicious abundance banqueting in the presence of him, then it is this intoxicating place. And for me, I just got smashed.
Kylie, you can't be drinking and smoking Jesus. What are you talking about?
Well, it's just like this place where you realize, okay, first I'm just going to let go. So I've just got to, so there were, there was all kinds of, it was quite an, not disorganized, but there wasn't really a format or a plan for the gathering other than our meal times.
It was described as a retreat with no agenda.
Yep.
And that's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. But within that, there were obviously people that wanted certain people to speak or wanted to hear from different voices and all that kind of stuff. And I had the opportunity to say things at times, but I just really felt like that this wasn't a time for me to be necessarily saying a whole bunch of stuff on a microphone or even like singing or doing anything like that, that I just kept on feeling this draw to the back of the room, and especially on the second day. And I felt like I needed to just let go. So I just let myself go into that place of playful surrender. And all of a sudden, I just got the giggles. And then I had another couple of girls with me who also got the giggles, and we all just started laughing and laughing and laughing. And in this place, it's like you come into this place where all of a sudden all of your guard comes down. All of the reasons why you shouldn't be so silly come down. And then all of a sudden you tap into what already is, which is the wine vat of love within us. And all of a sudden, we're sitting in the wine room, which is in the garden of our heart. It's in the wine cellar within the very center of our being. We're sitting there with Jesus, just drinking straight love. And I can't describe it as any other way other than just all of a sudden going into this place of going, okay, whoa, I'm really drunk now. So when you get really drunk, so say if you're just drinking wine in a pub or you're drinking at your house, I feel like I know that I can get drunk on my own. Like I can get very drunk if I'm just drinking a bottle of wine at home by myself or just with you. But it's not like this silliness that you have when you go with your girlfriends and you're drinking wine with your girlfriends and you're all like being loud and laughing and everything like that. Well, this was the same because there was a number of us gathering there. Then we were bouncing off one another. It's like the playfulness just became sillier and sillier. And we were able to tap into this place of all of us being in our own gardens, tapped into our own wine cellars. Then all of that wine was started to flow from within us. And then all of a sudden, that collectiveness all took everything higher. So all of a sudden it was a really quite messy, and we were just laughing, and was just beautiful because, and it continued on for me right through the night. Like,
It did, because there was the second night, I think it was on the Saturday night, in the middle of the night. I woke up, and the only reason why I woke up was because you were lying there laughing and laughing and laughing in your sleep, or at least I was asleep. I don't know if you were asleep. And it was just like, oh, come on, like, can we just get some sleep without the laughter?
well, I woke myself up laughing. And then when I realized that I was laughing and I'd woken myself up laughing, I was laughing even harder. And then because I was still in a conversation with Jesus, and we were in this conversation, he was telling me all of this stuff. And it was so funny.
What stuff was he telling you that was so funny, Kylie?
Well, first we were talking about like what I might say and how I might share this encounter with the group later on in that day. And then I started talking to him first just about his name, saying, "Oh, well, shouldn't I be calling you like Yeshua because that's like your actual name?"
Because Jesus doesn't know his name.
I know, and he was like, "But Jesus is like my worldwide nickname, so it's cool. Like I'm totally vibing if you call me Jesus. Just call me Jesus." So I felt like it was like an endeared name. Then I felt like I wasn't, going outside of some kind of new understanding that we'd had that Jesus is no longer Jesus; he's only Yeshua. But I felt like it was like this French name, this silliness name that we have when we're just chummy with people that we're, and so we both started laughing about it. Jesus was laughing about it. I was laughing about it. I'm like laughing out loud. And then he starts telling me all this stuff about the Jew, because there was a bit of a Jew theme, which I wasn't really privy to at that time because I'd missed out on the Jew theme part because I was having another love wine conversation with some different people. Back to the topic, he was telling me a number of different bits and pieces that I shared with people at the gathering later on. And part of it was he was saying, "Oh, these secrets." And then I was saying to him, "But if I share the secrets, they won't be secrets anymore." And then he says to me, "But drunk people don't keep secrets." And so it was just like really cool because it was just like a lot of laughing and a lot of remembering who we are in that beautiful place of playfulness. It's like remembering why some of us are wired for the drinking, and why, those big spirit drinkers are wired to be able to have this capacity to walk with Jesus in this really beautiful love wine way. And it's hard when we're crossing over and we're knowing that there is a space where we're needing to leave behind natural wine. And for some people, that is like a really important decision in their life where it's not a religious thing, but it's just something that we're doing because we realize to embrace the fullness of our lives. We just want to leave that piece behind. But there is this longing within us still to have this intoxication where our body comes into that place of playfulness and love, which is often where that habit begins, but it never really ever finds itself in its true form because natural wine is only ever really a counterfeit for the spiritual wine that is available in the cellar rooms of heaven.
So it's like in the Bible when Jesus healed people, and then he said to people, "Okay, now you're healed, you're set free, you're free to go, you're free to get on with your life. Now don't go and tell everyone what happened." You recall those times?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've just Googled, just while you were talking then about how you were saying that drunk people don't keep secrets. I was just thinking maybe that's what it was like for those people that he healed, where he was like, "Okay, now don't go tell anyone." And they're just like living in that drunken glory, bliss bomb of love because they've encountered him completely and wholly. And they're running off with the inability to actually keep a secret or to contain their excitement, and so they're just running around telling everyone. It's like being in that drunk state. So I googled that just to see if anybody else had thought about that, if it's a popular theory or not. And straight away, the very first thing that comes up is the question, why did Jesus tell some people to keep quiet about his miracles and identity? And the first answer is there are a number of times in the Gospels that Jesus performs a miracle and then tells the person healed and those who witnessed to not tell anyone. I wonder why. The obvious answer from a human perspective, according to this person, is because he feared the Jews and those who wanted to shut him down. But since he is God, why would he not just be glad for the good news to spread out far and wide? Being fearful of sinful men strikes me as not really his nature, blah, 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 blah. And I'm in agreement with that in the way that why would Jesus be fearful of anything? It's not like anything that happened in the lifetime of Jesus that happened to him, through him, in him, around him. It's not like he wasn't aware of these things happening before he even entered the world anyway, being that he's connected to the Father, being that he's a part of the Father, that he does what the Father says, he spends intimate time with him. They're in that Trinity dance, with the Spirit as well. That it's not like there's anything separate between Jesus and God. So I don't think that Jesus was cruising around the earth healing people and telling them not to tell anyone because they'll know who I am, or because he's scared of what's about to unfold. And I'm not saying that he wasn't, what I'm not saying is that he was not scared, but he knew how things were going to pan out.
In Psalms 32, it says, "Oh, the bliss of him whose guilt is pardoned and his sin is forgiven. The bliss of him who the Eternal has absolved, whose spirit has made full confession." It's the now, like this joy unspeakable, this moving beyond the mind and into our imagination, into this place of the unimaginable. It's like John the Baptist said, heaven is at hand. It's right within our fingers' reach. It's right here. Like, it's not meaning it's coming in the future. It's right here, right now. Like, we stand outside of time in the fullness with the creator of all things. We stand in this place where this secret is simply that the outsiders are now insiders and they're sharing in the inheritance. This family, the promises which come from Christ and his message of the good news about God, which is we're in. We're all in.
We're all in. You're in, I'm in. We're all in. There's nothing that we have to do to get there.
Like, we're all in. It's a big drunken party, and people are at the party and they're being party poopers. They're wanting to still point their finger at people who are already at the party.
Or even at yourself. But I don't feel worthy.
No, come on.
But I feel like I've done too many things bad in my life that I can't possibly be in relationship with God in the way that you talk about. So if I can't be in the fullness of relationship with him, how can I possibly get to a point where I'm living in this drunken glory spot that you've just been speaking of?
Exactly. Well, it comes from letting go. It just comes from eating from the tree of life and not from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Now, this drunken glory that you're talking of, Kylie, there was about 60 people at this retreat, and you were giggling a lot, like we were spoken about. You're giggling in the middle of the night. You're flying across the room. You're rolling around on the ground. You're in a real state of drunkenness the whole time that we're there.
Yes.
Was everybody like that? Was everybody behaving like that?
No.
And do you think that the other people that weren't behaving like that at that retreat, that weren't rolling around on the floor, that weren't laughing, do you think that they were all in a state of intoxication as well, or not?
I think varying degrees.
Varying degrees.
Yes.
So is it just like when you are drunk in a hotel environment? We've worked in hospitality. We've worked in hotels a lot in our life. We've been around it a lot. Is it just like that where you get to a point at nighttime where it's like 10 or 11 o'clock or midnight where people that are there, everybody that's there in the hotel has been drinking and varying amounts, but you get to a point where it's like everybody's drunk up to a point. Everybody's drunk to a different degree. But the behaviour between the different people is completely different. Some people cry, some people slur, some people whinge and moan, some people laugh, some people go to sleep, some roll around on the ground, some want to get up and dance on the bar. That happens a lot, doesn't it? In hotels, I guess it happens all around the world when people get drunk. You used to do that too, Kylie. When you used to drink wine and beer and whatever else it was that you were getting into yourself, sometimes you would want to get up and dance on the table and on the bar as well. But I never did.
No, because you hold your drink very differently, and you always have, and I think you hold your spirit drink the same.
And this is where I was going with it, was I just want to open up that conversation and that thought. I guess I just want people that are listening to this podcast to understand that if they feel like they have been in that place of intoxication with God's love, that if they're not laughing and rolling around on the ground, cry laughing, that doesn't mean that they haven't also experienced it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's true.
Yes,
Because some of
because
us are laughing drunks and some of us are just sitting in the corner just going yum, 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 hoo, 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 drunks. Some are just enjoying the pleasure of watching all the laughing drunks drunk. Like
and
there's
the
just,
contentedness, the
yeah,
fullness of being
absolutely.
drunk in Him, that just
Yes,
makes you sit back and not say anything, but just be
absolutely.
completely in awe of who He is, and
Yeah,
having those thoughts that go through your mind about creation and what He's created and how He
yeah.
makes things all work out so that people meet each other at different times and places and all of those things.
Yeah,
You can be in that place of drunkenness in just processing those things with Him and not be running around like a lunatic and
exactly.
still be intoxicated.
And I see that in you all the time. Like sometimes I'll just look across at you and just go, look at you, you're just like smashed. You're just sitting there in this warm space, or you'll just be like walking up the street and you'll just be kind of just in another world. Like, you might do a little stumble or something like that. And all of a sudden it's like, hold on a sec, you're tanked. Like, look at you, you're just in the glory.
So in the good old days when you used to attend Pentecostal churches, sometimes you'd get to you might be in a meeting where they do the tongues thing, where they're encouraging people to speak in tongues, or, things like that, where they're really hyping things up and the energy in the room's really raised and people are running around dancing and speaking in tongues. And then sometimes there's people in those environments that just aren't and just can't. And they come away from those meetings thinking, there must be something wrong with me. I can't speak in tongues, or I'm not having as much fun as those other people up there seem to be having. Therefore, I must be falling short in some place between myself and God. Maybe there's something in our relationship together that hasn't quite yet gelled, because if things were going well in my relationship with Him, then I'd be running around like Kylie. I'd be running around like a lunatic. But it's not true. God has created us individually and uniquely, completely, in every single way. So whilst ever it is that you're aspiring to be somebody else, or behave like somebody else, or be more like somebody else in any way at all, you're actually stepping outside of the identity that He has given you to just be you, which is more than enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just being you part is so key in this whole conversation, because each one of us bring our own unique frequency into every melting pot of gathering. So whatever that looks like for you, your freedom for you is your coming in your uniqueness, coming in with your walls down, coming in your place of letting go, and what that looks like as you're walking that out with Him. When you're coming into those spaces and gathering together, then that's what creates these unique places of wonder and mystery and deep diving into these cellar rooms of heaven, where we can actually all come into this place of a raised consciousness, because we've all brought our unique flavor, our unique frequency, our unique sound. And for some of us, that sounds just like a song, or it sounds like laughter, or it sounds like a hum, or it sounds like a groan, or it sounds like just the sweetness of
A
stillness.
cock-a-doodle-doo.
A cock-a-doodle-doo,
Whereas
exactly.
at the retreat, there was a couple of people that were making chook noises, and there was
Ah,
lots of other
yes.
clicking noises, and there was
Yeah.
lots of people yelling out like they were drunk, like they were at the pub. There's
Yeah.
lots of that kind of behaviour, and we don't need to go into the specifics of all of the behaviours, or certainly not who was at the retreat or not as well either, because it's a really intimate gathering. It's a really intimate space, and it is like that because everybody there is in that place of wanting to be in the fullness of the love of God, and people get to a point in that place, in the safety of the people that they're surrounded by, that these strange happenings occur that don't normally happen on the street, because everybody's just completely open to being unhinged and open about whatever it is that he's doing in them. And you see transformation take place in people's lives. You hear conversations after of really intimate happenings that have happened between God and individual people when they've been clucking like chooks.
Yeah.
They're not clucking like chooks because they're trying to draw attention to themselves, but they're actually releasing nervous energy. They're actually letting go of facades that they carry around with them, where they pretend like everything's together, but it's not. And so it's a really interesting space to be in with people for a time like that, for a weekend where everybody's goal is to just be there and encounter the fullness of him and let go of all the facades.
Oh, it's beautiful. Like, I just think about Abraham and his, like,
Father Abraham had many sons. Many sons had Father Abraham.
I am one of them, and so are you.
And something
And let's all
else.
praise the Lord. Abraham, he did have many sons, but his barrenness was actually traded for this ultimate fruitfulness and joy. And his promise was Isaac. And I only realized this when I was sitting in this. Like, one of the people that came to me at the gathering was Isaac. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. And
Isaac as in a physical person.
Isaac as in Isaac from the Bible.
Okay, so yeah, I just want to clarify it for people that are listening that, there's lots of different people that listen to our podcast. There's actually people in more than 40 countries now, Kylie, including people in Brazil.
Yes.
They're our
Hello,
latest
beautiful
country
Brazil.
that we've reached. Hello, and thank you for listening. And thank you for being okay with our silliness, our drunkenness.
Yes.
Welcome to the drunken party. But I just want to make sure that in all of our conversations at all times, that we allow for the fact that people understand our language in different ways as well as the experience that people have and have not had in the spiritual places as well.
Exactly.
It's completely unique. So when you say you were at the conference and Isaac came and visited you, and I ask you, is that a physical person? That's to clarify for the listener who has not necessarily been in a spiritual gathering like we have, to try and clarify for people so they understand that sometimes there's going to be people that we speak of, that we meet, and we speak of them as if we've met each other like in the physical, but it's not like that.
Exactly.
So go on with meeting Isaac.
So that night when I woke up and I was laughing, and then I was laughing and continued laughing with Jesus, and then I had an encounter with Isaac. Now, I didn't really understand what that was about at the time, and I tried to think, what is it? What's the significance of Isaac coming and meeting me? Anyway, I didn't share that at the conference at all. I mean, at the gathering at all. I didn't even really think about it again until this week when I was just looking into this, the barrenness of Abraham, and then the promise and this beautiful joy that came out of that place. And I realized, I read his son of promise was Isaac, meaning laughter. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, I was sitting with Jesus and Isaac. So I was sitting with Jesus and laughter. I was sitting with the wine, the love wine, and the laughter in the nighttime. Like, how crazy is that? And I didn't even know that at the time that that's what I was encountering. That's who I was encountering in my drunkenness. So that was amazing. In Genesis 14:19, it says, "And he blessed him and said, blessed, favored with blessing, made blissful and joyful, be Abram of God, the Most High possessor and maker of heaven and earth." So we've come into this place, I think, where we move from mediocre and we come into this place of like the awesomeness. It's like that place where we go, let's go down the pub, let's get together with people. We know that our experience of is going to be enhanced if we're with others that love us. We don't want to be in this meh-ness, because we exchange that meh-ness, we exchange it for this wildness and this joy. We exchange it for like adventures and laughter and freedom and bliss. And we're no longer in that place of stale stoic religion that you were talking about at the beginning, but we're in this place of vibrancy and abundance and love.
Yeah, smashed. So, smashed was the topic of the day. And no doubt Kylie still is smashed. No doubt I'm still smashed. Hopefully you are as well.
Yes.
We thank you for those that have been supporting us via Patreon.
Yes. Yeah.
We have a Patreon family who support everything that we do, and we gather with them online now too, Kylie,
Yeah, we
don't
do.
we?
Yeah, every month we have dates up on our Patreon page. We've got another one coming up this month on the 19th. So it's May at the moment, 2024. And we have a gathering coming up May 2024. Will be really an immersive conversation again, just like we had last month, which was amazing conversation with Justin Barco, which was really, really cool.
And it's not us talking to you and teaching you something. It's actually a conversation, an interactive conversation where we all get to have a chit chat together as family, as part of our Patreon family. Thank you for those of you that have been supporting us, and we look forward to meeting more people as well as time goes by. So you can find out any information about any of the activities that we're involved in, including our Patreon support page, on our website. Wildfiretribe.life is where you find out about who we are. Now let's get back to being smashed.
Yes, in Psalm 36 it says, "Relish and feast on the abundance of your house, and you cause them to drink of the stream of your pleasures." That doesn't sound like getting roused on for stepping out of line.
No, but we've left religion behind. So
yes.
just read that again. In Psalms, it speaks of what we were speaking about after religion. After religion comes life, and life in abundance. So just read that again.
Oh, the bliss of him whose guilt is pardoned. Relish and feast on the abundance of your house, and you cause them to drink of the stream of your pleasures. And I think when we have the revelation that that stream is within us, it's in the very center of our being. It's in the Garden of Eden that we walk together with the Trinity within our own heart. That stream of life flows from within us. That stream of love is actually in the center of our being. And when we just dwell in that place of bliss, that place of connection with what already is within us, that's when we start to go, ooh. Because it's here now. It's this new now. It's this lifestyle of joy. It's this unimaginable, unspeakable, beyond comprehension river of heavenly delight. Like it's this place of bliss. It's this place of just walking in the wine room with Jesus. Like he is the wine room.
And is there anything that we can say that can convince you that you have the ability to be drunk with him? Or is it actually just a choice that you get to make?
It's a choice.
You get to choose.
You get to choose. You can be grumpy if you want. Like, I mean, that's what freedom is. We have the freedom to be grumpy if we want to be grumpy.
We get to choose whether we're happy or sad.
We do.
Even no matter what circumstances are impacting our life, we still get to choose in amongst all of that.
Exactly.
So it's as easy as just choosing whether or not you want to enjoy life and life in abundance, or
Yeah.
you want to choose to be a frowny person who looks down your nose and judges the world of the time.
Yeah.
Then is it as easy as just choosing?
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah. It is.
Wow.
We can just choose.
And the more that you choose one or the other, the more that it happens.
And be empowered to understand and to know that if you choose grumpy, like you've chosen grumpy and you're allowed to be grumpy, but it doesn't make the world a better place.
No, and it just makes you more grumpy, because when you're grumpy and you're focused on being grumpy about the things in the world that are making you grumpy, then all that you ever notice is things that make you more grumpy.
Exactly. And I think often we substitute that place of busyness, even our grumpy busy or our stressful busy or our, focused, really got to get task driven stuff done busy, for relationship. And the relationship is the wine room of love. Relationship is this place where we just allow ourselves to realize we choose to be in that ever-present place of blissful wonder and delight.
I was reading last night about some ministers who are cruising around the world ministering, and they were proceeding to minister to the world in their very serious way of ministering because it's a job. And they're describing in their Facebook posts about how they just want the whole world to understand that being a minister is not easy, that they're not on holidays all of the time, because ministering is, in fact, very difficult work.
Well, it's not difficult if you're just sitting in the wine vats of love.
Maybe ministry is a job that is a distraction from your relationship with the creator of the world being your father, and that it is something that you've given a role to that keeps you busy, that keeps giving you something to do for him. And you keep on doing your ministry work for him because you don't understand that he is your father and you are his son, and you get to enjoy life in abundance right now without having to go around and slave away, thrusting your views upon the world who have not yet heard about him, because he is a God that, whatever version it is that you're selling people.
Exactly. 1 Corinthians 16 says, do everything in love. I think we long for happiness and we long for pleasure. I love this. I'm going to try and say this. I know I don't always pronounce things well, but this is an Italian proverb. So I'm going to pronounce it in Italian.
Okay, Giuseppe.
Giuseppe. And I think that I'm going to be good at Italian because I want to live in Italy for a little while. Nel vino la verità. So it's nel vino la verità, which means the truth is in the wine. And what is it that sets us free?
Pizza.
The truth sets us free to experience this abundant life. It's the truth that is the truth is that our old separated self doesn't exist anymore, because the truth has set us free. And the truth is not just something that we lay hold of as a piece of knowledge, but the truth is a person. The truth is the wine himself. The truth is the essence and frequency of love. The truth is Jesus, who is the door into the more. Like, the truth is that we are already free to experience not a boring, religiously sober life, but a life that is filled with exotic and wonderful emotions. All the ups, all the downs, Like they're all part of the life. We can't go, oh, we just have this great sacrificial life because we're in ministry. But everybody actually has hard times, no matter what their job is, no matter what they work in, no matter who they are, what kind of business they are. Don't think that you're just the only one doing it hard because you're in ministry. Like everyone's doing it hard. But if we don't find this place of sweetness and overflow, tapped into that place of realizing that the truth is we live in freedom and abundant life and joy, then we're always going to be beating ourselves up that we're not there yet. Oh, it's the sacrifice that we pay. Oh, that's because we actually can find the joy in all of the ups and downs. It's not circumstantial.
All right. Well, I've just about had enough of this, Kylie. I feel like I'm getting to the point where we're going around in circles, and I feel like I'm starting to work for a living. And I don't want to feel like that, because I just want to feel like I'm actually existing in that bubble of his love all the time as
Come
well.
on. Yeah.
So before I sign off and say goodbye, I just want to say, how about anytime you find yourself striving towards something that feels really, really difficult to achieve on God's behalf in your ministry, that you just put it aside just for a little while and fall back into his love and see how you feel after that. If you find that ministry work that you're doing for him is so difficult that you wish that you had another existence, then pick up a shovel and dig a hole for a couple of months, something like that. Do something really difficult physically and then see how hard ministry work really is. Ministry work, I don't know that it was ever supposed to be as difficult as we like to complain about, or whether a ministry is just supposed to be a time of actually just knowing who you are in him. I know that ministers of religion get around the world ministering because Jesus was in ministry for 3 years. But I don't know if Jesus saw his life of 3 years between the age of 30 and 33 as being a job that he had to do for his Father, or whether he was merely living out his existence as a son, the Son of God.
Yeah, in the blissfulness of childlike wonder. So I want to finish with a quote, John Piper. This is a quote of his. Don't let the childlike awe and wonder be choked out by unbiblical views of virtue. Don't let the scenery and poetry and music of your relationship with God shrivel up and die, for you have the capacities for joy which you can scarcely imagine. I love that. You have the capacity for joy, a capacity which you can scarcely imagine. So be in the bliss, guys.
Be in the bliss, be in the glory, be in the drunkenness of his love, because that's what it all is all about. It is not about anything else. It is not about reaching your unsaved friends to get them to a point where you twist their arm hard enough that they say that they're a Christian. It's not about that. It's about him. It's about him and his love for you. And it is just a continual circular motion of him and his love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you all with us today. Go and be about your day in the bliss and wonder and the wine vats of love that are flowing from within.
Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you next time on Wildfire Tribe podcast.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.